This is my boomstick!
It's the Film Flamers.
Hi, I'm Chris.
Hi guys, I'm Robert.
And we're the Film Flamers, bringing you another Top 10.
That's right, and category is...
Horror Comedies.
Chris, I have to say, out of all the top 10s that we have done thus far, this was by far the very hardest for me.
Really? Why?
When we first decided to do horror comedies, I was like, I don't even know if I can think of 10 that I like. And so after we decided that, I went home and I pulled out my phone and I was like, I'm just going to make a list of everything that came to mind. And I ended up with a list of like 42 movies.
Oh.
So I was surprised by that. And so in preparation for this top 10, I have done so much rewatching and watching of movies. And I just found myself at a loss of how to rank things. And I went back and just reordered my list so many times. And it's just been quite the struggle for me.
It's interesting that you say that because I didn't think it would be difficult, but I did have like a list of like 30 different movies that I kept switching around. And then I had my top 10 and then I remade it 2 more times.
So I think in preparation for this, I watched about 12 movies.
Wow. Holy crap.
So I have done my research. A lot of them did not make the final list. And I was glad that I watched them again because I haven't seen them in quite a long time. But I found myself in a very difficult predicament to, create this top 10. I'm still not even quite sure that it's my actual top 10. Like at this moment, I'm wanting to change something, but I'm going to shoot straight forward and this is what I'm doing.
Yep.
And there's no going back now.
Stuck in stone.
That's right. Do you want to go first?
Sure. Let's switch it up. My first and also your first. I'm just trying to pronounce Student Buddies.
I think I've seen that.
Yeah. In fact, I feel like we recorded something about that.
Yeah. Student Bodies. Right?
Oh, yeah. Student Bodies.
Mm-hmm.
From 1981. Oh, the one with the 25% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. I felt obligated to put that on this list because we covered it.
Honestly, I did too.
There's so many. It's just that there's so many really good horror comedies. Like, who knew?
And originally...
And so many of them are classics.
Well, and I guess this is sort of a classic too, Now that we have our conversation about Student Bodies that was posted, a couple weeks ago, guys, if you haven't listened to it, go back and do that. It's sort of, a renaissance in this movie that we've grown, to love it even more as adults, right?
At the end of the day, though, it's not like a horror comedy classic like the film, say, Glitter.
Oh my God, what a horrific movie that is. Mariah Carey at her absolute most horrific.
Right.
But really, I too felt obligated, beholden, sort of, to put this on the list. I do enjoy this movie as a horror comedy very, very much. It's a hilarious spoof of slashers, and the jokes kind of become one note in it. And I think that over time, if I keep watching it more, I will grow to love it. But it barely made it onto the list.
But what's interesting is, like, not to belabor the point, but there are so many really good horror comedies, and in ratio to how many are made, it's really strange that so many of them, like a percentage of the ones that are made, are just really good.
I agree. And that's why making this list was so hard for me. But, I'm going to stick with my number 10 as Student Bodies, and obviously it's your number 10 as well. Yeah. I have a favorite quote from this movie, and I was trying to think of things that made me laugh a lot in these movies because I'm trying to rank them based on comedy aspects, like what makes me laugh the most in these movies.
Click.
My favorite comedic quote from this: "Hasn't there been enough senseless killing? Let's have a murder that makes sense." So as this list goes down, I'm sort of like ticking off the movies that I think are the funniest. So, yeah. With that being said, Chris, what's your number 9?
My number 9 is Shaun of the Dead from 2004.
I have to say, for those of you who listen to our top 10 zombie films, I have since watched Shaun of the Dead. Yeah. And I liked it very, very much.
I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. I know. I have to rectify all these things. Continue with your assessment. So.
Shaun of the Dead is, of course, Simon Pegg and Nick Frost duo, and probably their most famous and enduring film as a partnership. And it's like about friendship and love and family and zombies and death and killing and Queen songs and drinking. And there's a lot of overt comedy and physical comedy as well as British comedy. It's just a classic. Everyone who watches it loves it. So, I mean, it really kind of needs no introduction, needs no, synopsis or anything to say about it, because I feel like most people have seen it except for you. So I think we can move on with your number 9.
But I have seen it now. Thank you. I did enjoy that movie very, very much. It's not on my list. I think the more that I watch it, since I've only seen it one time, it will grow in my heart, but it was a fantastic movie and I applaud it being on your list. My number 9 is Housebound. It's a New Zealand film from 2004, directed by Gerard Johnstone.
Haven't seen it.
This movie is so fucking hilarious. And it's one of the only movies on this list that both actually scares me and makes me laugh. There's some really scary parts in this movie. And it's all about this woman who is arrested for trying to explode an ATM to steal the money. And she gets sentenced to house arrest with her mother, whom she hasn't lived with in many, many years. But then she starts to realize that there's something evil in the house that she's living in, right? And so it becomes this horror comedy mystery of trying to figure out what's going on. And there is an amazing performance in this movie by a woman named Rima Tiwata. And to me, it is like an Oscar caliber comedic performance. It is so good, so funny. I laugh every time I see this movie. I'm scared every time I see this movie. It just really is up there for me. One of my favorite quotes from it is, but anyone who says there is no such thing as a bad egg obviously hasn't worked in social services. And wow. I love this film so much.
My number 8 is Dead Alive from 1992 by Peter Jackson. And we just talked about this in our top 10 zombie films last month. But it's straight up horror comedy. I mean, there's not much more I could say that I didn't already say for our last top 10, but it's one of the goriest, funniest out there movies that you will ever see.
And if you guys recall from that episode, I had not seen it, but Chris showed it to me directly after that recording. And it was a lot of fun. I need to watch it a couple more times. It was a little goofier than I was expecting, but I really enjoyed the gore in it. I thought it was a great blend of horror and comedy. So much fun.
Yeah. What's your number 8?
My number 8 is What We Do in the Shadows.
I haven't seen it.
And that is a shame. Also from 2014 and also from New Zealand. This movie was directed by Jermaine Clement of Flight of the Conchords fame and Taika Waititi of Thor Ragnarok fame, I guess is what he directed after this, right?
Wow.
They also wrote the movie. And this movie is just completely funny from start to finish. It's like a mockumentary of vampires living among us, trying to fit in with everyday life. The acting is good. The writing is fantastic. I'm sure a lot of it was ad-libbed, but the directing is great. I love this movie. Something that makes me laugh the most from this. So the vampire's talking to the interviewer and he says, I think we drink virgin blood because it sounds cool. And the other vampire says, I think of it like this. If you're going to eat a sandwich, you would just enjoy it so much more if nobody had fucked it.
Wow.
So, I mean...
Wow.
It's just a really funny movie. Chris, I know that you would enjoy this.
Nice.
So
of course I would. And
I know
really meant it's been on my list for years, embarrassingly. Seriously. And when I say list, I mean active list on Amazon or Netflix, to watch, my watch list.
It was available on Amazon Prime to watch for free until 2 days ago.
And as a friend, you did not tell me that, so...
Well, I just discovered it when I went to go rewatch it yesterday. But there's a TV series coming out of this show on FX.
I know, yeah.
And the trailers for that look amazing. We probably should have talked about this in Shooting the Flames, actually.
Yeah. Well, whoops.
So, guys, if you enjoyed this movie, look out for the TV series that's coming out. It's the same people. It just looks like a lot of fun.
My number 7 is Little Shop of Horrors from 1986. Starring Rick Moranis.
I wanted to put this on my list so bad.
I know. I'm kind of shocked that you didn't.
Yeah.
And that feeling is going to continue as we work through this list. I can just feel it.
Yeah. Oh, God. I love this movie. What do you think about it?
There's just something about Steve Martin as a dentist that I love, and Rick Moranis is always gold. And of course, it's just a classic, right? I mean, you can't. There's nothing like Little Shop of Horrors.
Yeah, I there are a few movies that I know like most of the dialogue from like start to finish, and this is one of them. And it was on my list of 42 or whatever I had to start with, and I rewatched it, and I was just like, this really does count as a horror comedy because of all the love letters to like 50s stuff. Not to mention, it's based on an actual horror movie starring Jack Nicholson, right? Uh-huh. And I had it on certain iterations of this list, and I don't know why I took it off, but I applaud you so much for having it on there. And really, just that fucking song of Steve Martin singing about why he likes to be a dentist to like torture people is the best thing ever in the world. Mm-hmm. In fact, why don't you play a clip right now?
Okay, here you go.
When I was younger, just a bad little kid, my mama noticed funny things I did, like shooting puppies with a BB gun. I'd poison guppies, and when I was done, I'd find a pussycat and bash its head. That's when my mama said,
What did she say?
She said, my boy, I think someday you'll find a way to make your natural tendencies pay. You'll be a dentist. You have a talent for causing things.
And we're back.
So my number 7 is Psycho Beach Party from 2000, directed by Robert Lee King. This is based on a stage play by Charles Busch. I know that he's written lots of like avant-garde, very queer-centric, LGBT-friendly stage plays, right?
Yeah, so I had an internship in New York, and actually one of the things that I did there was I went to a little stage play, and the main drag queen that is in this film was doing a stage play with someone else. I forget who that was, and I forgot her name too, but it was just like a little sit on the chairs and read out the play as a dialogue. Mm-hmm. And it was really good, and I got to meet her and him. I don't know how you do drag queens. The conversation continues, and I actually worked with, in the same room, the editor, I think, and cinematographer for Hedwig and the Angry Inch. So interesting. I don't know how that happened. And I also while I was there ran into like Neve Campbell in the New York blackout, because that's when I was there. And walking around the back streets around Times Square, I ran into Sarah Jessica Parker filming.
Oh my God,
Sex and the City.
I lived in New York for 2 fucking years.
I was there for 1 month.
Bullshit. Like the most. I mean, I met Paula Cole, and that was great for me. But my lord, so the drag queen you're talking about is Charles Busch.
Yeah.
Okay. It's the person who wrote this movie and acted in it, and she is phenomenal. Well, I guess it would be he's the drag queen.
Yeah,
right? I don't.
That's what I'm saying.
The way he performs in this movie is fantastic. It is the most LGBT positive horror movie I've ever seen. I love watching queer horror, but a lot of times it has some problematic parts to it, and this is just really a positive experience. You have 2 characters who sort of like realize that they're gay and that they love each other, and it's a really just fun movie to watch. At the same time, you have somebody who has all these multiple personalities, stalking and killing people and doing some crazy shit. I just love this movie. And it's another parody from the list too. It's like a parody of, these 60s like beach gidget movies, and also, like drive-in flicks or whatnot. But it's a fantastic movie. If you have not seen this, you really need to go watch it.
I've always meant to. I want to.
I really want to show it to you. I want to watch it with you.
Especially since I, met the person that actually wrote it and acted in it, apparently. So,
I mean, like he's a really talented guy. I'm surprised because this movie's got like a 53% on Rotten Tomatoes, and that really bothers me. But 25% on Rotten Tomatoes for Student Bodies is also ridiculous.
Well, that 53% may have come from the year 2000, so keep that in mind.
That's possible. One of my favorite lines from Psycho Beach Party is, I've had a man's hairy balls since I was 8. It's my source of power. They tell me the weather, the time of day, if there's a pileup on Route 66. I mean, it's a really tongue-in-cheek fun movie.
Well, my number 6 is Beetlejuice from 1988, directed by Tim Burton and starring Michael Keaton and Winona Ryder, etc., etc.
At all.
Beetlejuice has a very consistent vibe. The whole like duo vibe between like Gina Davis and Alec Baldwin, and then Winona Ryder, and then like the family, and then Michael Keaton. I mean, just everything's magic here. I think it all just kind of came together because Tim Burton has not been able to make a horror comedy quite like this since, I think, although he's done different iterations of different kind of vibes of different things. But I mean, just the music choices in this, just like the sets were great, the costumes, the makeup. I mean, everything's kind of a little dated now, but you just really can't beat Beetlejuice. It's Beetlejuice. I mean, it's such a classic. I don't know what else to say. I mean, if you haven't seen it, go fucking see it, you loser.
I mean, I also enjoy Beetlejuice. I really think it's like quintessential Tim Burton, right? Back in like, you know, his heyday. It's hard. He hasn't quite made the kind of movies that he used to make.
Yeah, I think the only thing like post 2000 that I like that he's done is Big Fish.
Oh, that was really good.
Yeah.
That made me cry a lot.
You should go into more drama.
But you're right. I mean, the music choices in Beetlejuice are fantastic. I think that really like sets up the movie itself, like that dinner scene where they were doing the Harry Belafonte.
Yeah,
right?
And it also has a great film score by Danny Elfman. I mean, it's great. And of course, like the year later, they did like Batman with an amazing score too, an amazing cast also with Michael Keaton as Batman.
What's funny is that Beetlejuice was on my big list. It never made it to my tapered down ones, and I don't know why. I don't know why I didn't rewatch it when I was rewatching all these movies. I think I probably need to. My number 6 movie is Tremels from 1990, directed by Ron Underwood.
Haven't seen it.
You haven't seen Tremors?
I'm kidding. I love this movie.
Thank you. I was like, oh my God, really?
No, I love Tremors. And I actually like Tremors 2 as well.
I have not seen any of the sequels.
What?
And there's like a bajillion now.
Tremors 2, like the same chick like that comes back, and it's the same cast and everything. It's not as good as the first, but it's like fun in different ways.
Oh my God, I need to watch that.
Yeah.
I like this movie a lot. I mean, I saw it in the theater when I was a kid. So in 1990, I was like 10 or 11, right? And it's just like a love letter to like 50s creature movies. It's got it balances the horror and the humor very well for me. And the creature effects in this movie are fantastic. Those ones are neat to look at.
Oh yeah, they remind me of like the creatures from Dune. And obviously also the sandworm from Beetlejuice.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, Tremors is just so good. I mean, you don't have to go any further than just saying Reba McEntire playing a survivalist with an elephant gun to like really capture the heart of a young gay boy. I mean, come on. Well, it's also like the comedy and everything is just so effortless and relaxed. The whole movie, in my opinion. You know,
I mean, and the performances are great. I mean, these are actors who have like done comedy for a long time, and they're sort of doing a movie that I think is comedy first and horror second, right? Yeah. But I mean, that's perfectly fine. One of my favorite lines from this that I quote all the time with my brother, because I think it's my brother's favorite line from Tremors, is, "Damn it, Valentine, you never plan ahead. You never look at the long view. Here it is Monday, and I'm already thinking of Wednesday." Wait, is it Monday?
My number 5 is Gremlins and Gremlins 2.
That's an excellent choice.
Thank you,
sir.
Yeah. I wanted to put Return of the Living Dead somewhere in here, but one of them had to go, so I chose Gremlins. And Gremlins, some might say, is a Christmas movie, but I personally believe that it is a comedy horror movie that happens to be on Christmas. And people can disagree with me, let me know. But I just cannot do a top 10 list without Gremlins on it. It's just so good. All of the comedy, all of the creature effects, it just works so well. There's like this dry, dark humor to it as well that you wouldn't expect from that kind of like a puppety creature feature film or whatever. But it's just, it does so well. So I would definitely see that if you haven't, and go rewatch it. It's different when you watch it again as an adult if you didn't watch it since you were a child.
And you also like the sequel too, right?
Yeah, sure, with Christopher Lee.
Yes, that's right. And it's like one of his greater final performances. No, he was in Lord of the Rings, right? I can't even say that. Oh my God.
But I mean, Gremlins also spawned a lot of other little creature feature horror movies like Critters, which I almost also put on this list.
Yes, that's right. I mean, I consider it a comedy.
Yeah.
I mean, I love Gremlins. I love it very much. And when he's saying some people, he's pointing that directly at his co-host, right? So I mean, I see it as a Christmas movie, you know. And if I were making,
well, that's fair. It's on Christmas.
If I were making a Christmas list, it would definitely be at the very top.
But I mean, does any other movie is like Die Hard a Christmas movie?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm weird, y'all. I don't know.
Okay. Would you say Alien is a Christmas movie?
Does it take place on Christmas?
It might.
If it were, then yes.
Okay. So all other genres are consumed by Christmas if it happens to be on Christmas.
I love Gremlins, and like in all honesty, I had this on my list for a very long time while making it, and it really just came down to what made me laugh more. Like, which one did I think was a bigger comedy than the other? And I took it off my list because it didn't make me laugh quite as much as some of the other movies that I had on.
You had it on your list?
Yes, I did. And I took it off. So I'm glad that you put it on there.
Oh.
So
It's fortuitous.
Exactly. My number 5 movie is Buffy the Vampire Slayer from 1992, directed by Fran Rubel Kazuzzi.
For some reason, my mother would let me see like things like Critters and other things, but she would not. I begged and begged and begged her for me to like rent this VHS, and she never let me do it. Finally, when I was like old enough to kind of do it myself, I got it, and it was okay.
That's so funny that you should share that anecdote, because Buffy the Vampire Slayer was the very first movie that I ever saw by myself in a theater. My mom dropped my 12-year-old self off at the theater, and
Nice.
I got to go see whatever I wanted to, and that's what I wanted to see. You know, and it was at the $1 movie, so it wasn't the best part of town. So my mother obviously had some questionable parenting choices going on. But yeah, I was obsessed with this movie as a little preteen gay boy.
I wanted to see it for the horror because it looked super accessible at that time in my life, and I didn't expect the comedy. And what I didn't like was the horror as much, and what I really ended up liking was the comedy aspects of it.
Same, like hard same. Like I went to go see it because I thought it was going to be a vampire movie. I had no idea really what a Valley Girl was at 12. I mean, most of the movies that I watched at that point were horror movies.
Yeah, I remember the quote, like they're looking in the mall or whatever. She's trying to get along with these girls or something, and one of them was like, "That coat was so 5 minutes ago."
It's retro. I mean, I just was obsessed with Buffy the Vampire Slayer after I saw this movie. I bought the soundtrack when it came out on video. I had my copy. I watched it all the time. And so when Buffy the TV series came on, I was immediately like glued to my television set. Like,
So I couldn't give two craps until later. I watched, I think, Angel. I caught it on TV one time, and it was such dark humor, that I didn't expect, that I actually ended up getting really intrigued, and ended up buying the DVDs for the seasons for Buffy and Angel or whatever, and I just watched it all the way through, and I've been a diehard fan since. And this wasn't until I was in my 20s.
Every episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer on the night that it aired. I never missed it.
Really? Not
Into
once.
my 20s.
All 7 seasons.
All of it. And there were some nights at gay bars that they had really good drink specials, and I was like, no, it's Buffy night. Just I'm not
What
doing
about Angel?
I liked Angel quite a bit, not quite as much. I started watching Angel and I made it almost halfway through the series, but I finally finished it when it was on streaming Netflix, but I stopped watching eventually. But I mean, I like the characters a lot in Angel. But Buffy the Vampire Slayer to me is fantastic as a TV show. As a movie, it's only number 5, but it makes me laugh when I watch it. I enjoy the performances of Christy Swanson, who's now a crazy Republican, and Paul Rubens, Pee Wee Herman, he's a really good vampire in that movie. And I mean, it's just great. One of my favorite lines from this movie is this kid is talking to a TV reporter, and he was like, they had this look in their eyes, totally cold, animal. I think they were young Republicans. So, I mean, it's a good watch. Not a great film, but a good watch.
My number 4 is Addams Family and Addams Family Values.
Yes.
And, okay, so to me, the better film is Addams Family Values.
Agreed.
Because they smartly put Wednesday more into focus, because Wednesday, as a character in these 2 movies, is everything. I adore Wednesday in these movies. It is just I love her script. I mean, like, you get just all these one lines, you know, it's like, can I buy some Girl Scout cookies? And Wednesday's like, are they made from real Girl Scouts? You know, or something. And then like another one, like that same blonde shows up in the next two is actually on Angel. Actually.
Was she really?
Yeah, as the secretary or the Cordelia's old friend from high school from Buffy.
Oh my God.
She was the little girl in both, the little blonde girl in both Addams Family and Addams Family Values, playing off of Wednesday. I think her name is Mercedes McNabb.
Yeah, that sounds really... Oh, you're right. What the hell was that girl's name on Buffy? The really annoying one. And she was on Buffy and then she was on Angel.
It was like Heather or
I forgot
Harmony.
Harmony. Yes,
Yeah.
It's Harmony. Oh my God, she is a great character on Buffy.
Yep. Yeah.
And I love that little bitch on Addams Family Values.
Yeah, and she's like, she's talking to Wednesday. She's like, is that your swimming suit? And Wednesday goes back, is that your overbite?
These movies are so...
And her ghost story that she tells, like, at the camp or whatever, or just catches the end of her story, and they're all, like, putting the flashlights up to their faces and everything, and Wednesday's telling the ghost story. And she's like, and then, when they woke up, all of their old noses had grown back. And they just all freak out and scream because they've all had plastic surgery or whatever.
I have not seen these movies in a very long time, and I'm ashamed to say that when I
it's
made
so
my list
good.
of 40, it was not even on it.
Oh, it's so good. And they're like, it's a special time in her life when all she can think about is one thing. And then like the hoity-toity mom, you know, Wasp is going, boys. And Wednesday's like, homicide.
I love this too because you introduced me to the Wednesday Addams videos on YouTube.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. That I think they had to be taken down or whatever because of the copyright, but she did a good job.
Yes, my God. I mean, I had no idea what that even was. I mean, I'm not a big YouTube watcher, and Chris will always have a good video for me to watch when I come over to his place, right? And he was like, have you seen this? And I was just like dying. It was so good.
Yeah.
Loved it.
Yeah, so I have to come back every few years to Addams Family Values at the very least.
I have to watch it again soon.
Man, like, who else was in that movie? Like, Christopher Lloyd's in that movie, and Raul Julia
Julia's in it, yeah.
you know, in there, and
Angelica Houston.
Angelica Houston is a wonderful Morticia. She's like probably my second favorite character. But in Addams Family Values, the antagonist is of course played by Joan Cusack,
An amazing comedic actress.
Oh my God, she's so good in this film.
She's good in everything that she's in.
And I love like having an Angelica Houston playing this gothic, you know, queen, you know, and asking Joan Cusack as like this hoity-toity, you know, obviously homicidal. Oh, pastels? She's like, get out of my house! Get out! After Morticia asked her why she painted her house in pastels.
2 Halloweens ago, I went as Wednesday Addams. So maybe, just maybe, I will post on Twitter a picture of me dressed as Wednesday. It's a really fat Wednesday, but I mean, hey, why not?
All right, we've talked enough about that. I'm sorry. What's your number 4?
No apologies. My number 4 is The Final Girls from 2015, directed by Todd Strauss-Schulson.
That was good.
Yeah, I love this movie.
And this is a movie that we actually talked about with Scream Queens on his podcast.
That's right. For his podathon for Halloween, he invited us on to talk about The Final Girls, and it was a fantastic choice because it was something that I already loved. I mean, he didn't know that when he asked us on, but it was fun to talk about with him. If you have not listened to that episode, go check it out on his feed, Scream Queens. This movie is filled with so much heart in it, right? And it's the best combination of like drama and horror and comedy to me. And every time I watch this movie, I laugh my ass off and I cry, and it hits me in all the feels.
Well, it's also incredibly unique in a way that like I think Cabin in the Woods kind of is unique.
Yeah.
And that Cabin in the Woods is kind of like the horror movie to end all horror movies, literally. But this one, they actually get to go into a horror movie and enjoy it. And there's multiple aspects to that, familial, otherwise. But it's a really surprising film, so I would recommend it to anyone that has not seen it. Final Girls is a really good movie.
That's right, and this is one of the movies that me and Chris have actually watched together, and I mean, we both really enjoy it. It made it onto my list because I've seen it so many times. I love this movie. I'm ready for a sequel already, damn it. If y'all would just go ahead and fucking make it.
Yeah.
But I think that by and largely, it really is a send-up of the slasher genre that we didn't get in Student Bodies, or we didn't get even in Scream, you know? I think this sort of takes it to a different satirical level. And maybe just borders on parody a little bit. So, but it's really, really fun. My favorite part of this movie is where this like straight character he calls someone gay and he's like, don't say that, my dads are gay. And the character says, yeah, right, gay guys can't have kids. They're too busy going to discos and having sex with each other. It's a pretty cool lifestyle, actually. So, I mean, like, just that kind of, like, gay positivity in that sort of horror comedy makes me happy. So.
My number 3 is Young Frankenstein from 1974, starring Gene Wilder.
I have never seen this movie.
What?
Yeah, I know.
Okay, like you don't, like people keep underestimating this movie. Like, why would I see that? It's old. It's got, it's like, it's like black and white. It's supposed to be a comedy or whatever. And
I love Mel Brooks. I've just for some reason have never sat down and watched this movie. I know so many quotes from it.
I think that this is probably Mel Brooks' best work.
Really?
Yes.
Oh.
It's very smartly written. It is hilarious. There was a lot of stuff that Gene Wilder got to do, based on what he wanted to do as an ad lib. From beginning to end, it's just hilarious. It's just good writing, good comedy. Some of it's silly and some of it's just over the top, but a lot of it's smart. And I can't recommend Young Frankenstein enough. And if you haven't seen it, you need to remedy that, because it probably should have been my number 1. If you're talking about like reviews and stuff, I mean, it's up there. It's one of the highest rated horror comedies of all time.
I always feel so ashamed when I haven't seen one of the movies on your list, you know what I mean? And especially for this one. I think that's super highly regarded in both like comedy and horror comedy circles, right? And I love Terry Garr. Is Madeline Kahn in this movie too?
I don't know the actors' names outside of Gene Wilder. It's been so long.
And I mean,
I want to go back and rewatch it very soon.
There's so many jokes that I have used in conversation with people, like that fucking horse ninny, right? Or whatever, Frau Bruja, or whatever her name is, right?
Yeah.
So I've been living a lie using all these quotes.
Yeah.
I mean, so I will rectify that.
Frankenstein.
My number 3 is An American Werewolf in London from 1991, directed by John Landis.
Yeah, and this film has actually gotten our list before for its transformation effects. And that's actually not on a list so much as it was our brightest flame, I guess.
Yeah,
for,
we were giving a brightest
special
flame
effects.
Best makeup artist.
Yeah, and we definitely mentioned this one because it has a very classic werewolf transformation scene. But other than that, this film is a very cool comedy.
Yeah, I mean, and that transformation scene was what helped it get an Oscar nomination for makeup effects, which almost never happens for horror movies, which is crazy for me to think. But I mean, it was so realistic, and I think that particular scene is delivered in such a comedic way before it leads into the transformation that sort of like help a mass audience watch this movie. This movie's got like 88% on Rotten Tomatoes right now, which I think is pretty high, right? I would assume it would be higher, but that's what it's at. It's very scary. It's very gory. And I recently, so my nephew is 15. He'll be 16 very soon. And he started loving horror movies about 4 years ago. And I was like, well, I need to show him some movies that I love. And we sat down to watch An American Werewolf in London because I thought it would be clean enough for him to watch, being R-rated. I forgot how much sex is in this movie and just random stuff, but he laughed his ass off the entire time watching it. And I could not think of a funny part or a funny quote for this movie. So I called my nephew and I said, when we watched American Werewolf in London, what was your favorite funny part? And he just went off with the quote like no other. So the guy has woken up from being a werewolf. He's naked in the zoo in London. He's trying to escape, so he grabs the balloons from some boy, and that little boy says, "A naked American man just stole my balloons." And my nephew just rattled that off like I don't know. I was never been prouder of him in my entire life for that sort of horror movie recall. So I mean, this movie's great. It's funny. It's a classic. I mean, just
yet
go
another
watch it.
Horror movie from 1981 that I watched when I was very, very young and did not know it was a comedy.
That's right. I mean, I could see how you would watch that and be scared by it, because there's some really gory stuff in that.
Yeah, and a lot of the comedy is like dialogue and stuff when they're just sitting together. And stuff. And especially in that scene too, I think that he wakes up in that crypt or whatever. There's like not crypt, but like in the zoo.
Yeah, he wakes up in like an animal cage because he had like eaten some animals.
And I remember that scene like in particular because I just thought it was either like I was scared and then I was also kind of bored because I was a child. So
Yeah, I mean the conversational comedy in that movie is really what makes it a comedy.
Yeah.
And John Landis had done other comedies beforehand, like Animal House and things like that, and which is more overtly comedy. But I think when someone thinks of horror comedies, this sort of ends up on people's list a lot.
Yeah.
Right?
My number 2 is Just a Jump to the Left.
And then a step to the right?
Oh, exactly. And then you put your hands on your hips and you bring your knees in tight.
Should I do this right now? I don't.
Let's do the time warp again by making our number 2 the Rocky Horror Picture Show from 1975.
It's astounding. Time is fleeting. Madness takes its toll. But listen closely.
Not for very much longer.
I've got to keep control. I remember doing the time war, drinking those moments when the black pit would hit me and the boys would be calling. Let's do the time warp again. Let's do the time warp again.
This is by far the most fantastic choice on your list. I am so excited that it's on there because I didn't even think to put it on the fucking list.
You didn't?
No.
Well, you missed it?
And yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's a straight up horror comedy, musical awesomeness. And there may not be that many uproarious laughter moments in the movie, but you definitely have a smirk on your face the
Oh, yeah,
entire
it's
time.
Tongue-in-cheek the whole way through it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, gosh.
Well, and you and I have talked about this movie since we've known each other. We have referenced mostly the music from this.
Yeah. Touch me.
We're like,
I wanna be Susan Sarandon.
there's a light.
Over at the Frankenstein place.
I haven't seen Rocky Horror Picture Show in a long time either.
Science fiction.
Double feature.
Yep. And of course,
We
Sweet
could go
Transvestite. We could go on and on and on and on. And, if you haven't seen this film, don't go see a live showing of it.
Have you?
In your local, you'll be a virgin and you'll be teased, but you'll have the time of your life.
You've done that, right?
You're putting me on the spot.
I know you have. It's fine. Just go ahead and say yes. It's fine.
I haven't. But I've been invited several times.
Oh my, do they even still do it anymore?
They probably do, just more rarely. But if you can't find one in your local town or city, go watch the movie by yourself or with friends or family, or really friends probably. And
Probably not family.
and watch it and enjoy it. It is just a blast.
Yeah.
And just, listen to the soundtrack on repeat like everyone else.
I love this fucking. I love this movie. I
Yeah.
love it. I'm glad that you have 2 musicals on there, and I have no musicals on mine. That's ridiculous for me.
Yep.
Shit.
Mm-hmm.
So a shame. My number 2 is Ghostbusters from 1984, directed by Ivan Reitman. I don't think I need to say a whole much about Ghostbusters. It's a classic. There's lots of really great ghost effects in this movie, which sort of cement it in the horror area.
Well, it also doesn't really start off as a comedy. It just kind of works its way into it. And I think there's a lot to be said about the cast here, because you've got Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd and everyone, like Ernie Hudson, Sigourney fucking Weaver is in this. And why do I always have to say her name with a fucking in the middle?
Sigourney fucking Weaver.
Sigourney fucking Weaver is in this movie.
So I rewatched this movie in preparation for this episode, and I have not seen it, and it had to have been more than 10 years. And I was surprised at how much I laughed at it. I thought that really this was going to be like a nostalgia boner for me, right? And I was surprised at how much I really enjoyed watching this movie again.
Yeah.
And Annie Potts in this movie is just completely underrated. She's so funny.
Now, is there a reason you didn't include Ghostbusters 2 as a package deal?
I don't really care for Ghostbusters 2.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I've seen it a couple times, but
The painting thing always freaked me out.
that painting is hideous of that like half balding man or whatever, like lording over that river and shit.
That was a really good painting.
I think that Sigourney Weaver is good in both those movies. I think the highlight for these movies is really Sigourney Weaver.
So it's interesting because I actually had my own little Ghostbusters experience recently within the last couple of weeks. A friend of mine invited me to go to the flagship Cinemark Theater in Plano, Texas, where they had the VR experience there.
Is that here?
Yes, that's the only one, basically. I think there's one in Disneyland, and that's basically it.
I knew we had one in Plano, but I didn't know what they were doing. Is it Ghostbusters?
They have Ghostbusters on Tuesdays, or they did, and then they might bring it back on during October. And they have a haunted house one separately from that, too.
There's another horror one, yes.
Yeah, and so I've done, there was a Star Wars one that was good, and Ghostbusters one was really good. You go to the hotel, and you go up this elevator, and you have to use your actual, like on Star Wars, like the little gun that they give you is like a blaster.
Right.
And so, but you have to aim with it and everything, but the Ghostbusters thing is almost perfect for this, because you feel the feedback and everything, and you can like cross the streams and everything. And but you can like, it kind of latches on, so you don't have to aim very well, and it latches onto the ghost that you're trying to like suck down. And then of course you can smell things like when there's a spoiler, there's the marshmallow man at the very end. The whole side of the building comes off, and you have to like shoot the marshmallow man. You can smell marshmallows.
Are you kidding me?
No. And when the thing opens up, I forget what it's called, and it sucks the ghosts in, it's a wind vortex, and you can feel that.
Oh my god. I mean, I had read about this, and I want to do it so bad.
Okay.
Jesus, I'm so jealous right now.
Yeah.
Because there's another experience in the same vein, right? And it's supposed to be incredibly horrifying. I'll have to look up what the title was, but it's the same, like, it's some sort of experimental thing. Is this Industrial Light and Magic that did that or something like that?
No, it's the VR experience at Cinemark is called The Void.
The Void, yes. Oh, I want to do that so bad. You're so lucky. Ghostbusters itself is very well loved and remembered. It's quotable. I think that anybody who grew up in that era grew up loving Ghostbusters. I was scared by it when I was a kid, especially when Sigourney Weaver has those hands come out of the chair and like hold on to her, and she's like sort of sucked in and becomes Zool, right? But there is no other line in Ghostbusters that can be more well loved than, Ray, when someone asks if you are a god, you say yes.
My number one is the Evil Dead series. More specifically, Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness, because they play like one long movie.
They do.
And there's just nothing better as far as like an evenly split horror comedy than the Evil Dead series with Bruce Campbell, directed by Sam Raimi. You go back and watch like Army of Darkness, the 1993 film, and it, like, they even had better effects at the time. This is the time that Jurassic Park came out, and you've got like these stop motion effects, skeletons,
sort
and
like
little
Jason the Argonaut skeletons, right? Yeah,
little puppet skeletons playing flutes and everything. Like, there's so many awesome quotes, and just the music, the acting, the script. It's just hilarious.
Yeah,
it's just done with so much love, and you can tell everyone making these films had so much fun.
I wanted to put Evil Dead 2 on my list so bad. I had it on there when I first started making it, and it kept getting bumped up higher and higher until it was eventually off the list. And I feel bad about it, because I recall when we watched Evil Dead 2, and we had both seen it before, but we were laughing so hard at that part where all the animal heads were we had to pause the movie and like walk away. We were laughing so hard. So yeah.
Yeah, I love it.
It's fucking hilarious. And
a special place in my heart, honestly. I always love the Evil Dead series. It's probably in my top 3 franchises, especially horror franchises of all time.
Oh, I know it is. We were asked a question by Cocktail Party Massacre when we were on their show about, your co-host favorite franchises. Yep. And I was, I should put that. And I think I did, actually.
Yeah, I think we both got that question right.
Yeah. So it is, I should mention to you, we're about to go to a horror convention here pretty soon here in Texas. And both Sam Raimi, Ted Raimi, and Bruce Campbell are all going to be there.
I cannot wait.
Yeah, I know. You can even get a picture with all 3 of them.
I'm going to have to get my broomstick so I can sign it.
You should take that DVD you have of the fucking face.
Oh, I should.
Yes.
I need to put a new watch battery in it so it screams again when you touch it.
Every time they try to sign it, it screams.
Yes.
It's perfection. I love it.
I'm going to bring that.
My number one horror comedy is Cabin in the Woods from 2010, directed by Drew Goddard.
Good choice.
I love this movie so much. And it's funny that it's on this list because when I went to go see it, I didn't know that it was a comedy.
Well, Drew Goddard has an incredibly good sense of humor, especially when he's partnered with a scriptwriter like Joss Whedon.
Yeah.
And of course, I think my first experience with Drew Goddard was an Angel episode that they're all turned into puppets. Which was
I like that
hilarious. It was so good. And they went on to do Cabin in the Woods. And it was amazing.
I remember seeing the trailers for this movie, and I was like, well, I want to see that, because I thought it was just a straight-up horror movie. I had no idea that it was that.
Yeah.
And when I finally got to go see it, I was completely floored by it. It's just one of those reasons to, like, don't pay too much attention to a trailer. If it looks bad or whatever, still go see the movie, because this movie is nothing like what they advertise it to be.
And I can't believe that it's been almost 10 years.
I know.
Crazy.
I was just thinking that too when I made the list. I was like, has it been that long?
Because I still
already?
remember the marketing, and I remember being disappointed that they had shown, because I kind of knew what it was going to be about. And I remember they had shown the bird hitting the shield or whatever, and I was like, don't give it away.
See, and I had no idea.
And Joss Whedon had been saying, like, this is the horror movie to end all horror movies, literally. And I was like trying to contemplate what that meant, you know. And then we see that trailer and everything, and I felt like I knew what it was before that trailer came out, and I was hoping they would keep it tighter to the chest. But they didn't. And but it's still, even with that scene being shown, you don't really get how much deeper, literally deeper, they go in the movie.
From the very first scene of this movie, I was laughing my ass off. It was so unexpectedly funny.
Yeah.
And well acted and well made and well written. I mean, like, honestly, if you have loved horror movies your entire life, this is like the horror movie fan's wet dream. I mean,
yeah, and you expect it to be kind of like a character feature where it's going around these characters as like a low budget kind of film set into the cabin, right? And it is that basically until the very end, when it's just an explosion of kind of big budget moments.
Yes.
Which is it's just, there's nothing like it out there.
No.
It's incredibly unique, and I can completely respect that as your number one.
It is a perfect movie, and I would one day love to have a full episode on it. I just know that the amount of research that you and I both would put into it would be outstanding.
Plus, the best thing about it is that Sigourney fucking Weaver's in it.
That's right. Sigourney fucking Weaver is in this one too, and she has got. I mean, we already have given her brightest fame for best horror actress.
She is blessed,
but she's also like the best horror comedy actress too. This woman can do everything.
Have you ever seen Paul?
No, I haven't
With
seen
the alien.
Paul.
She's in that too.
What?
And you'd like her in that.
I'm sure I would.
Yeah,
I need to
she
watch
shows
all
at the
these
end,
movies.
just like in this one.
My favorite quote from The Cabin in the Woods is kind of long, but it always sticks in my head. And so all these guys are betting on the creature that's going to take over, right? And someone goes to complain about not winning the thing, and he was like, I had zombies. And one guy says, yes, you did. Yes, you had zombies. But this is zombie redneck torture family. See, they're an entirely separate species. Like the difference between an elephant and an elephant seal. So, I mean,
Well, I'm one of those people that pause the film just to look at that whiteboard that they have with all the different things, and they have angry molesting trees, like from Evil Dead and everything.
do you know
else.
how many times I have Googled that just one thing
Yeah.
just to look at that whiteboard again and say, like, let me go find a movie that has the angry molesting tree or whatever. Like,
It was like the Merman or whatever seemed like the most innocuous one. They're like, no, that's the worst.
yeah, well, he wanted to see it
Eats
the
you
most,
and
right? And it
throws
finally-
you out its blowhole or whatever.
I love Cabin in the Woods.
So I had a couple. Actually, I'm including my 3 runners up. Of course, the ones that aren't already on Robert's list is Tucker and Dale versus Evil from 2011, The Abominable Dr. Phibes from
Which
1971.
I have not seen that.
Oh,
I
it's
need
great.
to watch it.
And Zombieland from 2009.
Also good.
So, did you have any runners up?
I did. I had a couple. I really, really love the movie The Burbs, which is by Joe Dante. He's the same director as Gremlins, and I think
I've never seen it.
he's a fantastic horror comedy director. And he did The Howling, which is a pretty serious horror movie. But everything he's done since then has been very comedic. And this movie's got Tom Hanks sort of at the top of his like underappreciated game. It's a very muted comedic performance by him. It's got Carrie Fisher in it, which is always good to see. And Corey Feldman. I mean, it's just like, it's a great 1989 horror comedy, and I watched it a lot as a kid. Something else that I really like that my next 2 runners up I'm not even quite sure I can call a horror movie. I asked a couple people and they seemed to disagree with me that they were horror films. The first one is Heathers.
Oh, I love Heathers. That was almost on my list, but I couldn't consider it horror.
And that's exactly why it's not on mine either.
I almost put it on, and I was like, I can't consider that horror.
But it's just a very dark comedy.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's quotable and it's funny, and I find it horrific in certain spots, right?
Yeah. What's your damage, Heather?
Fuck me gently with a chainsaw. I mean, like, I love Heathers. So good. It's a part of my childhood that I'll never forget. But my last runner-up, and again, I just could not put it on a list of horror comedies, is Clue from 1985. And Clue is in my top 5 favorite movies of all time. I know every piece of dialogue to this movie. Yeah. I love it so, so much. And I wanted to put it on this list so badly. I just didn't think that we could remotely call it even horror adjacent. I mean, at best, it's a mystery, right? But it's really just a straight-up comedy. Yeah, I can see that. Dark, but not even as dark as Heathers. I would consider Heathers a horror movie before Clue.
Well, it might be just as much as you'd say like Addams Family. I know there's a lot of macabre and like horror stuff in Addams Family, but really it's not used in a horror way, right?
Yeah.
So you've placed like this horror-esque family into like a comedy movie, essentially a dark comedy movie.
You know, there's another Addams Family movie coming out soon, right? I think it's animated.
I really want like a TV show with Christina Ricci as Grown Up Wednesday.
Oh, I'd watch it.
I just need to see that.
Totally. Well, and I know a lot of people like Clue as well. So, I mean, if you think that Clue can be considered a horror comedy, reach out and let us know, please. And also tell us what you think about our choices for horror comedies. I think Chris and I had a really good time making this list. I think that there's a lot of movies that we could interchange in here, and this is one of those lists that will change for us over time. So tell us what you think about it. Tell us what your favorite horror comedy is, and you can do that at the Film Flamers on Twitter or Facebook, or you can even email us
at tiredqueens@filmflamers.com.
Or if you want to make your comedic voice heard, you could call the Film Flamers hotline at
972-666-7733.
Until then, I think that we have laughed ourselves into a stupor.
Yeah, I gotta take a nap.
That's right.
I'm a tired queen.
Well, until then, guys, watch some horror comedies and
sweet dreams.
I can't even laugh anymore. I just... Just kidding.
Liar.